He thought it was spam, until the emails predicted his future. A man received messages from someone who doesn't exist, and each one came true, including the one that predicted the day he would die. Tonight's story is one of the strangest digital mysteries ever documented. It's a sequence of emails, sent by a person with no traceable identity, that seem to come from the future. A modern ghost story told through glowing screens and cryptic text, where a man's entire life was laid out before him, leading to a chilling and inexplicable end. This isn't just a tale of strange coincidences, it's a deep dive into the unknown, questioning everything we think we understand about time, technology, and the forces that might be watching us from the shadows of the digital world. So, turn down the lights, and let's explore the mystery of the emails that came from nowhere. It all started with a simple subject line, "Are you okay?" For the man who received it, let's call him Alex. It was just another piece of digital noise in his cluttered inbox. He was a busy professional, living an ordinary life in a bustling city. The sender's address was a jumble of letters and numbers, something he'd seen 1,000 times from phishing scams. The message itself was short, almost casual. It described something that hadn't happened yet, a minor accident he would supposedly have later that day. It mentioned he would spill hot coffee on his new shirt right before a big meeting. Alex scoffed, deleting it without a second thought. But that afternoon, as he rushed to his conference room, a colleague bumped into him, and his scalding coffee went everywhere, staining his white shirt just as the email described. He froze, the memory of the strange message sending a shiver down his spine. He ignored it, writing it off as a bizarre coincidence. But that evening, as he logged back onto his computer, the seed of unease had been planted. It was just a coincidence, right? The emails kept coming. At first they were sporadic, one every few weeks. The next one predicted a minor problem at work, a project file that would mysteriously become corrupted. A week later, he spent an entire afternoon with the IT department, recovering a file that had inexplicably vanished. It happened exactly as the email foretold. Then, the predictions escalated. A message warned him about a sudden family emergency that would require him to travel unexpectedly. Days later, he got a frantic call about his mother falling ill. Every single message came true. The sender's tone began to shift. It was no longer just predictive. It became urgent, almost desperate. One evening, a new message arrived that made his blood run cold. It was short, but the words echoed in his mind long after he read them. "I'm trying to help you. You don't have much time." That line terrified him. This was no longer a game or a series of strange coincidences. This felt like a countdown. Someone, or something, was watching every move he made and knew what was coming next. The invisible sender was no longer just a passive observer. They were an active participant in his life, and their ominous warnings suggested his time was running out. Terrified, Alex decided he couldn't ignore it any longer. He had to find out who was sending these messages. He compiled all the emails and took them to a friend who worked in cybersecurity. His friend was skeptical at first, but after running a preliminary analysis, his expression turned from doubt to utter confusion. He then forwarded the case to a team of professional analysts, experts, who could trace almost any digital footprint. They spent weeks trying to crack the case. They searched for server logs, trying to pinpoint the origin of the emails. There were none. They hunted for an IP history to track the sender's location. It didn't exist. They scoured the metadata for any clue, any fragment of information that could identify the source. They found nothing. It was as if the emails were manifesting out of thin air, originating from nowhere or from a time they shouldn't exist in. The experts were baffled. They explained to Alex that every digital communication leaves a trace, a fingerprint. But these emails were ghosts in the machine, completely untraceable, defying all known principles of network technology. The sender didn't just have a hidden identity. They had no identity at all. One night, exactly 1 year after the very first email arrived, he received the final message. His hands trembled as he clicked it open. The subject line was stark. "This is the end." The body of the email was just one haunting sentence. "I'm sorry, tomorrow is the last day." He checked the date. It was a prophecy for the following day. Attached to the message was a short, capitalized warning: "Do not leave your house tomorrow." Panic set in. Pure, unadulterated terror. He had followed every prediction, every warning, and they had all come true. This was the final one. He called in sick to work, cancelled all his plans, and resolved not to step outside for any reason. He locked every door, bolted every window, and drew the blinds, plunging his apartment into a state of self-imposed lockdown. He sat in the dim light of his living room, his computer screen the only source of light, watching the clock. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren, sent a jolt of fear through him. He was a prisoner in his own home, waiting for a fate that had been written for him a year in advance. The next morning, his friends and family grew worried when he didn't answer his phone. His boss called repeatedly, but the calls went straight to voicemail. By evening, after a full day of silence, his sister went to his apartment with a spare key. She unlocked the door and called his name, but the only answer was silence. The apartment was pristine. Nothing was out of place. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry. All the doors and windows were still locked from the inside. It was as if he had simply vanished into thin air. The only thing left behind was his computer, sitting on his desk, the screen still glowing. And on that screen was a new unread email in his inbox. Her heart pounded as she leaned in to read it. The sender was the same untraceable address. The timestamp showed it had been sent just an hour ago, long after he was supposed to have disappeared. The message contained only 4 terrifying words: "You should have listened." To this day, no one knows who sent the messages, or where Alex went. His disappearance remains an open case, a digital enigma with no logical explanation. Was it an elaborate, technologically advanced prank that went horribly wrong? Or was it something more?